have a vaccinated group, they run trials, they see the difference, and they see if something is effective. They don't just give us medicine because somebody thought it worked. They don't give it to 1 or 2 people, see they get better. They actually have effective trials. They do studies to see if it works or see if it doesn't work, see if it makes people better, see if it makes people ill. Some medicines can actually make things worse. And there was one trial I'm aware of for COVID-19 where they actually stopped the trial because it made people worse. So clearly in medicine, for a long time, medicine has been working on the basis that they have evidence. And John Hopkins defines evidence-based medicine as something that aims for the ideal decisions that healthcare professionals should make. Conscientious, explicit, and judicious use of current best practice in their everyday practice. Key words I've emphasized there: conscientious, explicit, and judicious use of current best evidence in their everyday practice. Doctors don't just read something and then have to do it. They look at the current best evidence. They keep up to date with what is being said today, because what we think worked 10 years ago may have changed over 5 years, over 10 years. Things change in medicine. Things also change in education. But it also says that doctors make decisions about the use of the current evidence. Just because there's a new drug doesn't mean that they necessarily give it to everybody. So they think carefully about the use of the evidence. Now, my question for you, as many of us are parents, would you give your child a medical treatment if your medical practitioner wasn't checking the evidence to see if it was safe, to see if it was effective? Would you just go along to a doctor who'd been doing the same thing for the last 30, 40 years and hadn't actually checked to see if there was anything better, to see if it was still working? For me, as a parent, I would always check that the medical practitioner that I was using for my children and myself was keeping up to date on what is best practice, what the evidence is saying as medical treatments. So if that's something I would do in medicine, then I turn it back on us. Do you use any teaching strategies without checking the evidence to see if it's safe and effective, to see if it's actually improving children's education or not? You can see in the picture, and most of you who know me know I love iPads. I'm a big fan of technology in education. Just wondering if you are aware that there are studies that show that certain types of implementation of technology in the class can actually have a negative impact on girls' performance. And these are studies that were carried out in Africa. So just because something looks like it's going to be wonderful, if you implement it in the wrong way, it might actually be detrimental. Now you can think about this in terms of medicine. There are some drugs that clearly make children better, make adults better. And taking the drugs, the doctor would prescribe the drugs. But if you take the drug in the wrong way, maybe it will make you worse. I think we all know that there's a limit, even paracetamol, which we think that's a great drug. It'll stop me having a headache. Maybe it'll get away some pain. If you take too much paracetamol, it will make you sick. What is the evidence on how paracetamol should be used to make it more effective? And this is my thought with note-taking. Note-taking might be effective, but how is it effective? What should we be doing? So, in summary, on evidence-based practice. Evidence-based practice is when the actual classroom practice of teachers is guided and informed by systematic evidence of what is effective. As teachers, in everything we do, new implementations and old implementations, we should make sure that we are well aware of the research on what is good, what is effective around those things that we do in the classroom. For me, those of you that know me will have seen me walking around with this book. I have so many copies of this book and this gentleman's various books. This book and the work by John Hattie, who's the professor of education now in New Zealand, is a meta-analysis. It contains 800 studies, 800 meta-analysis that they have looked at almost everything. Gosh, almost everything that we do in teaching is mentioned somewhere in this book. To me, this book is a great source to go to find out what they're saying about it, and also to find the source papers. A meta-analysis is when someone has looked at lots of different studies, drawn them together, and brought the evidence together to see what the general trend is. One study, one child in your class, doesn't demonstrate that something works or doesn't work. What we need is a range of studies from a range of places. This book, these meta-analysis, is a good place to start. I use it as a start point, and then I then go and look at the studies that are covered in that area that it references to actually have a look at the studies themselves. So that, to me, is why we should be looking at evidence. So, what does the evidence say about note-taking? What is note-taking? How does note-taking fit in as a learning strategy? It happens in most schools, but what does it actually achieve? How do we do it? Are we doing it in the best way? As I say, I'm not going to provide the answers. Mr. Thomas will provide some tips, but it's not necessarily a guarantee that it'll work in your school. But there is research, there are ideas. Within Hattie, the book I shared, Visible Learning, note-taking is one of the teaching approaches. It's something that we as teachers use as a strategy for children to learn. There are lots of teaching approaches. Hattie breaks them down into 5 different areas. And as you can see from this table, this is drawn from the book, each of the strategies, there are a lot of studies, some of them more than 1,000 studies on a particular area. And a look at the impact, the effect size is also there. And it talks about it. As you can see, they're ranked, the effect size. I don't have time today to talk about how effect sizes are calculated and hence how ranks come from. That's just to give you an idea. If you want to find out more, there's very, very easy. If you just look into effect size in education, put it in Google, you will find an endless amount of reading on that. So Hattie identifies 5 different areas that teaching approaches can fall into, and looks at the different impact of each of them. Some emphasizing learning intentions, some looking at emphasizing success criteria, what impact that has on children's learning, some looking at how feedback, the impact on learning, students' perspectives, or metacognitive self-regulated. Now, in this context, note-taking is considered amongst the metacognitive self-regulated learning and is in fact considered under the area of study skills. So you can see that within study skills, it seems to be quite effective. There's quite a lot of studies and it ranks up there at 25, which is not the best and is not the worst. As you can see, there's more than 100. Some activities rating down in the hundreds, some up at 25. So study skills in general can be quite effective. But what are the details? Let's break down a little bit more into the details. One of the things, and this as teachers is something that we should be aware of, is study skills interventions are programs that work on improving student learning using intervention outside what the teacher or the teachers involved would normally undertake in the course of teaching. Note-taking is a skill. If you walk into your biology class and assume that every child can take notes in a particular way or in an effective way, you are making a false assumption. It is a skill that has to be learned. It is a skill that we have to develop in children if we are going to expect them to use it. It doesn't just magically appear. Children will get better at it even if you don't do any teaching of it, but they will not get better at the same rate. They will not get better in the most effective way. So it is a skill that we need to learn. But does it improve learning? We spend a lot of time taking notes. Children spend a lot of time taking notes. Mrs. Amezwe told you to get your pencil before we started today. Note-taking is something that goes on through our lives, but does it actually make a difference? As I say, Hattie quotes a number of studies. I'm only going to have 2 or 3 that I'll mention, particularly one by Kobayashi, based in Japan, and one by Henk and Stahl, who were based in the US. Look at different aspects of it. I'm introducing to these studies are available. I think we will share them either through email or on the LinkedIn group, and we can continue the discussions because I'm really just touching on it. Henk and Stahl looked at why do students make notes? These are students who were choosing to make notes. Why do they make notes? And he identified 2 things that they thought. One, that students believe that the act of writing things down, particularly in their own words, somehow aids them in recalling those things. I've heard that said a lot by teachers, that if students write notes, they will remember it better. I'm not sure if people say that based on the evidence or whether we just say that because we think it's true. And the second thing that students report is that they take notes because it gives them a product which they can study later. Again, this is something that children, teachers will tell you why they take notes, why it is good to take notes. But what does the evidence say? What does the evidence actually say on this? Does the process of taking notes in itself actually help children remember things? Now, this is interesting. On the whole, the average effect size for encoding hypothesis, meaning if they understand things having written notes on it, can be considered modest. The act of note-taking itself is a limited help to improve students' recall of the information presented in a lecture. It's not a waste of time. It's not bad for the children, but it doesn't have a great effect. Now, again, if you read the reports and you want to have a look at effect size, you'll see what the effect size is. It's around about 0.34. We don't have time to get into what that means, and it's not important what that means. The general fact is that whilst note-taking has an impact, it's not a big impact on what children remember, what children learn. Henk and Stahl, as I said, looked at something else. Does reviewing one's notes aid recall? This one, they found, had a significant impact. Reviewing one's notes decidedly facilitates recall of lecture information. And again, we'll go through, or you can look at the study, read it through and see the difference. But what Henk and Stahl found is that more important than writing the notes